Good evening, everyone. You gotta love a microphone, don't you? Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening to celebrate the culmination of the Tretter Transgender Oral History Project and the opening of our exhibit, In Their Own Words. We're delighted to have you here at Andersen Library joining us to celebrate. My name is Lisa Vecoli. I am the curator of the Tretter collection in GLBT Studies. It's been a hell of a week for us. Pardon my French, right? Because if you were going to have two multi-year projects culminate in an event, you would of course want them to happen in the same week, wouldn't you? Hopefully you all know that I'm referring to Out North, which premiered on TPT on Monday night. Yep. A wonderful documentary about Minnesota LGBTQ history, which featured the Tretter Collection founder, Jean Nicholas Tretter, former staff member Stuart Van Cleve, myself as the current curator, Andrea Jenkins as the oral historian for the project, and a number of you who are in the room tonight who have joined us to tell stories about Minnesota GLBTQ history. I think it was a lovely start to the story. There is always more to tell, and we look forward to continuing to tell those stories, but it was tremendous. And if you haven't seen it, it is streaming on the TPT website, so you can catch it there. But that was Monday, and tonight is Thursday. So, therefore, thank you again for coming. We have a few remarks, and then we're going to have a musical performance. Afterwards, we will again have the opportunity to gather in the atrium. We have food, we have drinks, and I hope you'll spend a little bit of time in the exhibit before you leave this evening. So to get us started, I'd like to welcome University Librarian and Dean of the Libraries, Wendy Luget. I gotta come this way.
We're extremely wired tonight, so we're being careful. So, good evening, all of you. Wonderful to see you all here. And I want to add my welcome to Lisa's. This is truly a night of celebration for the new exhibit, In Our Own Words, but also an important celebration for the extraordinary work that went into the project, the Transgender Oral History Project, which was made possible by a generous support from the Tawani Foundation. I also want to add my gratitude to the Friends of the Libraries that have helped support this evening's event as well. Let me take you back in time. It was the year 2000, the first year of the new millennium. I think we all remember that, right? Checking the ages here. It was also the year that the life's work of collector extraordinaire Jean Nicholas Tretter was acquired by the University of Minnesota's libraries, and the Tretter Collection in GLBT Studies was established. When Jean began collecting in the 70s, there was no reason to think that anyone would ever want to study his material. Now we have gender and sexuality studies, a gender and sexuality center, and scholars, students, and a community interest that continues to grow by the day. And all of this shows, I think, the vision of Jean to collect the material in the first place, and of the university to accept it and accept responsibility for the future. And now, 17 years later, the Tretter Collection has become one of the world's most influential collections and archives in GLBT history. That momentous and visionary acquisition has been borne out recently with a number of awards and accolades. In 2016, the Tretter Collection became the inaugural recipient of the Newland Simons Award for Excellence in Serving the GLBT Community, an award that was bestowed by the American Library Association. And earlier this year, the Tretter Collection also received the 2017 Diversity Award by the Society of American Archivists. I think the extraordinary historical value of archives should be abundantly evident tonight as you consider the two exhibits that are in the building right now. On the main gallery, you can take a journey through the lens of more than 100 transgender oral histories. And in the atrium, if you wander up to the second and third floors, you'll find an analogous stories dealing with prejudice and exclusion drawn from the annals of the university's own history in 1930 to 1942. And these histories give voice and visibility by the archives. And they reveal a sobering relevance in today's context. The Tretter Transgender Oral History Project is remarkable in both its content and its scope and its scale. It adds an invaluable narrative to that history. And tonight we recognize this new archival record that has been created, a record of exceptional depth and value for today's students and scholars and community, but also for generations to come. So thank you to all that were involved in creating it and bringing it to our library, and to all of you that will use it in the future and thinking about what it will beget. So thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Now I'd like to introduce our next speaker. We're going to have a short program and then some music, so I hope everybody filled their plate and their cups before they came in, right? I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Eli Coleman, the director of the program in human sexuality and the chair in sexual health at the University of Minnesota. Eli has written articles and books on a variety of sexual health topics. He is the founding editor of the International Journal of Transgenderism and International Journal of Sexual Health. Please welcome Professor Eli Coleman.
Thank you so much. It's really great to be here to celebrate this amazing work. Stories influence our future. And I'll tell you one story that influenced my entire career when I was a psychology student, undergrad, before I even knew about the University of Minnesota. I worked at a state mental hospital, and most of the people were wildly psychotic. I used to worry about my life as being attacked by some of them. And there was this birth-assigned male who was completely normal. And I said, "What are you doing here?" And they said, "I don't know. All I need to do is to get to the University of Minnesota and have a sex change operation, and I'll be fine." And at that time, I had no understanding of this phenomenon. I was just an undergraduate student at Marquette University. And that foreboding of arriving at the University of Minnesota to finish my doctorate and starting at the program, and at that time, the Department of Psychiatry, which was the first center in the United States to have a sex reassignment program, was ready to get rid of it. And fortunately, Dr. Sharon Satterfield, who was then director of the program, offered to rescue it essentially from psychiatry and carry on the work. And thus, we went on to do a lot of work in this area, and I learned a lot. But Dr. Hastings, who was the head of that program, wrote an article, a follow-up study in 1978. And one of the evidences that he gave for the success of the program were the tears that some of the patients had after surgery, thanking them for giving them their life. These stories are profound and really are important to listen to. And that's why I was very, very pleased that we were able to help in collaboration with the Tretter to apply for the grant for 2 Tawani to capture these many stories from the early patients that were treated here, as well as many others, that we needed to capture those stories. And so it was a very important, before some of these people died and passed away. And just whatever role that the program had in helping start this, and I know Katie Spencer, our coordinator of our transgender services program, worked closely to, is Katie here? She's, oh, there she is, Katie Spencer. And of course, I think was on the selection committee to select the person and who really made this all successful. And I don't know who else could have done this any better than Andrea Jenkins here. So I just want to congratulate the Tretter libraries, and especially to Andrea for all of this work that I know that will be appreciated for many years to come. So thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Lisa Vecoli, the curator of the Tretter collection, who for some reason thought it was a good idea to break down some numbers on paper and create the world's largest transgender oral history project in the world. All right. It is a pleasure to have you all here this evening to celebrate the Tretter Transgender Oral History Project. My priority during my time at the Tretter collection has been to expand the representation in the archive. To be an effective archive, we need the voices from across the entire community. But the more I strategized how to bring in transgender and genderqueer narratives to the archive, the more I realized that our traditional methods would not work in this case. We could not wait for others to collect material and give it to us. If this was going to happen, we had to be the ones to make it happen. So when we had the opportunity to ask for funding from Tawani Foundation, I knew immediately what to ask for. We needed an oral history project. We were asking for a lot of money, and I didn't think our numbers were that big, but it turns out it was a crazy big number that we put down on paper. And for the project to succeed, it had to be from the ground up. It had to be by and for the trans and genderqueer community. It had to be led by someone with credibility and history. I will always remember getting the phone call from Andrea Jenkins asking about the project. I was walking out there with my cell phone. Andrea and I share a political lineage, and we've known each other for a lot of years. When she expressed interest in the role of oral historian, I knew we had found our staff person. You can teach and train a lot of things, but you could never recreate the kind of history, leadership, and engagement that Andrea has in the community. That, and the willingness of so many of you to open up your lives, is what has made this project a success. Please welcome the Tretter Transgender oral historian, Andrea Jenkins.
Life's strange. Crimson sounds emanate from the darkness. Alert you listen with an open heart. It's not your duty per se, yet like sunrise you always appear, steady and sure on the turbulent rivers that in unison can create waves of energy that flow outward, leaving devastation in its wake. Swollen waters fill my lungs. I can't breathe anymore. The light gets brighter and brighter, and all of a sudden I realize the beginning is near. I've been waiting for this moment for all my life, oh Lord. Thank you. My name is Andrea Jenkins, and I'm the oral historian for the Transgender Oral History Project. And it's been this fascinating journey in talking to my friends and meeting new friends and traveling all around the country and just hearing the different perspectives from transgender, from gender nonconforming, from gender queer, from gender nihilists, all sorts of gender expressions that I really had no clue of when I initially started this project. And I have to say that I have personally been shifted by this work and shifted my philosophical thought process around gender, my thought process around my own gender and how fluid it is and can become. And one thing that I talk to, because I get an opportunity to go around and talk to a lot of different audiences all over the country, and the number one message that I leave with people is there are more than two genders. Way more. I think Lisa and I have counted about 75 different genders that have appeared when we ask people to tell us their gender identity. And a part of our exhibition in the exhibition hall is a place where you can go and put your own gender up on the board. So it's interactive in that way. But, you know, I just want to remind us of why we do this work. And I don't want to necessarily bring this celebration down, but I just want to highlight why it is so important that we tell our narratives at this time while we're still alive, because in 2017, 23 transgender people, primarily transgender women of color, have been murdered this year. And today is October 19th. We're not even done with the year yet, and already there have been more murders than last year. So I just want to read some names and honor those people who are not with us right now. Misha Codwell, 41. Sean Hockey, 23. Jamie Lee Woodard, Wounded Arrow, 28. JoJo Stryker, 23. Tierra Richmond, also known as Kiki Collier, 24. China Doll Dupree, 31 years old. Sierra Mech 11, 26. Jaquarius Holland, 18. Kenneth Bostock, 59. Sherelle Faulkner, 46. Kenny McFadden, 27. Kendra Marie Adams, 28. Ava Leray Barron, 17. Ebony Morgan, 28. T.T. Dangerfield, 32. Guinevere Riversong, 26. Kiwi Heron, 30 years old. Allie Steinfeld, 17. So, you know, Eli mentioned that there were a number of people who we wanted to interview before they passed away. And, you know, I'm so proud that we got a chance to interview June Remus. She was here earlier. I don't see her here in the room, but June is over 70 years old and had her surgery here at the University of Minnesota. We also got a chance to interview Donna Big Mama Ewing. How many people in the room remember Donna from the gay 90s, the coat check girl at the gay 90s? So we got a chance to get her story. And so many luminaries from all over the country. Our youngest participant thus far is 18 years old, young Somali, female at birth, trans, masculine, genderqueer, and probably, Somali Muslim. I mean, it's just incredible. And I see so many people here tonight that I have interviewed and shared conversations with, and all of those memories are rushing over me right now. Like, wow, what an incredible journey. But I just want to end with a dedication to one of my dear friends who actually worked here at the program in human sexuality when we were doing the all gender health seminars about 20 years ago. Mickey identified as a drag queen. We would probably call her trans now, but that wasn't the language that she used for herself. Mickey was this bright light that shined so bright that it burned out rather quickly. And so she was my best friend. She helped me to navigate the challenges of coming out and really living my authentic life. And so I just want to honor her in this moment. Darling Mickey, before the morphine kicked in, before the commute was 2.5 hours and pneumonia was your semi-annual calamity, all the way back before you made all the men horny, before they figured out that you were a top and liked to be in control, before the leaves turned red and gold on the tree that was your life, before lonely was attached to your soul, anchoring you to your bed, before the sores took over your body and your face, and pain was your constant companion, before you cut off all of your friends who loved you, you were a star, and everybody knew it but you. So thank you. Thank you. That concludes my remarks. And I am happy to be able to welcome Lisa back up to the podium because we have a very special announcement.
Stay up here with me.
Yes.
So the Trans Oral History Project began 2.5 years ago. It was a 3-year project, and our target was to collect 200 oral histories of people from throughout the upper Midwest. Andrea has now done 190 of the 200 interviews. Those are done. We have over 50 of them online right now. The rest will be coming soon. We're continuing to transcribe them. We have the exhibit. We're hoping some of those people begin to donate materials to the archive. All of that was the project. You may be wondering, as we were as well, what comes next? It is with great pride and excitement that we announce this evening that the project will live on. Last Friday, we were informed that we've received major funding for Phase 2 from the Tuwani Foundation to continue our work. Phase 1 was a 3-year project. It was targeted to the upper Midwest, and it focused on identity. How do you define yourself? When did you know? Who did you tell? What did that mean? What is your life? Those were the narratives we collected in Phase 1. And we could always collect more, but we've got a really good base. Phase 2 is going to start to put on a different lens. Phase 2 will begin next year, and it's going to turn attention to community and political organizing on a national level. Over 2 years, our goal is 100 interviews from organizers and thought leaders across the country. In this moment of tremendous attention and challenge, who's setting the agenda? Who's at the table? Who's missing? Where are the allies? What are the challenges and the opportunities? Those are the questions we'll be answering in Phase 2. On behalf of the University of Minnesota Libraries, I want to thank Tuwani for their confidence in us. I want to thank Andrea for showing that we can deliver a remarkable project. I want to thank everyone in the room and outside of the room that opened up their lives to participate in the project, because that's the power of the project. Without those stories, without that participation, we would have nothing. So we are tremendously pleased to declare victory, to declare Phase 2, and to look forward to what comes next. Thank you all for joining us. And now Andrea is going to introduce our entertainment for the evening.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as some of you know, I've been on this really long job interview process for the last 9 months. But if I don't get that job, Lisa, I'm coming back for this job. I just want to let you know. And before I introduce our internationally acclaimed rock star, I just want to give a few shout outs to some people who made this beautiful exhibition happen. Lane Cunningham, who put together the digital films that you guys, the little vignettes and clips that you guys are privy to. Chris Kiesling, who really helped us to sort of pull our timeline together and make it succinct and timely. Lacey Matthews, who actually did the timeline. Big shout out to Lacey. Nino Miller, who started out as an intern and is now working with the project. Darren Terpstra, the exhibition designer. Thank you so much. It's so beautiful. And Lisa Vecoli, who pulled all of the wonderful artifacts from the collection and displayed them in a way that gives us a timeline in history all the way up to today. And so none of that exhibition would be what it is today without the contributions of those folks. So I just want to give them a big round of applause. So Venus DeMars has been a staple of the underground music scene, both here, here in Minneapolis and New York and all over the world for nearly 2 decades. Forming the band All the Pretty Horses in 1994, Venus combined the elements of punk, goth, glam to create a truly unique sound. Then toured all around the world as the subject of Emily Goldberg's documentary, Venus of Mars. And I've interviewed Venus twice, so I happen to know that she has a forthcoming memoir that I hope you all pick up and purchase. And so without any further ado, please help me welcome Venus DeMars.
So, turn the microphone on first so I can say something while I put my guitar on. So next year, it'll be 30 years since I came out as trans. And I was so scared. And talking to a few of the people here tonight, just as this is going on, and seeing the collection, I didn't think I would live to see this. This is incredible. And I'd like to communicate how important this is. Just this, and a collection, and a desire to capture this history. It's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for everyone who's doing it. Take my hand, take my shoulder, I understand, I can hold you, I know you can, you're something bolder, there is no plan. And it's getting colder. Oh, my brother, see my sister. There are no others. There is no difference. I could be you. You could be me. We struggle onwards and desperately. Stop your gun! Stop be stronger, could be true. Make me wise, make me breathe, make me feel you, make me grieve. I'm only going to do a couple of songs because there's wine out there and there's food out there. I want some of that too. So when I started writing music, and I've been doing it for a long time. This project, All the Pretty Horses, has had maybe 25 different members over the years, and we all get along okay. Things change and you can't keep up with it. I happen to have been able to keep up with it all this time. But it was during an era when I wasn't shy about being trans, but I had to do that. So I developed this persona, which is really out there. I wanted to have strength, and I wanted to be trans and out, but powerful. So I took on the role of this fetish thing. And I had to do that because it wasn't, nobody knew what trans was back then. And I needed to prove to people, the audience, I had to prove to them that I was authentic. And this was who I was. I got the chance to tour with Laura Jane Grace 3 years ago. And she didn't have to do that. She could just say she was trans. And she had the audience, and she had the support. And she's a lovely person. If anybody's wondering, she is genuine, and she is an honest, good person. So a lot of my songs are written back then, in the time when you had to code that it was all about trans. You had to code because I wanted to be successful. Little did I know, being so far out there visually, I would never be so. Record labels did not want to embrace who I was. So I have been an underground artist my whole career. I am still writing, I am still doing stuff, and I hope that I don't have to write in code so much anymore. This last song I just did was an example of that, and I hope to do more of that. But a lot of my music has to do with the human condition and what we all go through and what we deal with. And if you read between the lines, I've always written about the trans condition. This song is about me and my spouse. You're crying again, 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 again. Still trying. I'm hollow again, 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 again. You're asking, your heart is breaking, do I love you? I'm thinking, our stars so distant, seen from Saturn. You're asking, your heart is breaking, do I love you? You're screaming, it's 4 a.m., we're drunk and stupid. White horses are running away from white horses. White horses are running away from white horses. White horses White horses are running away from white horses. White horses are running away from white horses. Can I do one more song? One more. So this song I wrote a while ago, and I was inspired, actually, sadly, after Matthew Shepard was killed. And I tried to figure out what his killers were thinking and why. And that led me down this whole road of why we do things, who we are, how we struggle, the mistakes we make, how we might regret those mistakes. And I got stuck after I wrote about halfway through the song, and I couldn't figure out how to finish it. And a friend of mine had a daughter, a teenage daughter, and she was struggling with addiction. And as he tried to explain what was going on, and this guy, we met. He was Republican, and we are members of the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra season ticket holders. And a friend of his was a friend of ours and he is now passed, but he was out gay years before me. And this was his friend. And so he got his friend to come over to be with him, and the two of them would go out to do this. Don was our friend who has died, and his husband is left here, and David was his friend who was a Republican. But they were such wonderful people, and we got to know them. We got to be friends, and we would go out after the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra. And it was David's daughter who was struggling with addiction. And I saw him cry. And it gave me the end of my song. A stranger who hated the world for its lies. He shaved all his hair off, determined to teach wrong from right. The stranger found allies, a group of like minds in a fight. But as a boy died from beatings they gave late in the night, the stranger cried, though it challenged his pride. Have mercy on me, have mercy on me, for I never knew this life. it was when he called. His enlistment had ended. He'd be home from the war late in the fall. But he brought with him silence and a terror which bled through the walls. And she wept when he told her the blood and the vice and the mess of it all. And her lover cried as her hopefulness died. Have mercy on me. Have mercy on me. For I never knew this life.
Thank you so much, Venus. I want to thank the Friends of the Library for co-sponsoring this evening with us. I want to thank Venus, Wendy, Eli for joining us tonight. I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. I invite you to enjoy the exhibit, enjoy the wine, enjoy the food, enjoy each other, and enjoy this night of really celebrating the inclusion of the community in the archive. Thank you so much.